Wasn't that an amazing presentation? Can I ask you, if you are in the room and if you have a smartphone, to continue using it? You don't have to put it away. Just tweet about the event or make comments online. Don't hesitate to do that, okay? So our next speaker is a professor, a specialist in education, but also a specialist in beer and a specialist in big data. So he will explain us about what the combination is of all elements.
Thank you, Philip. Does this work? Okay. Great presentation. Difficult to follow up. I have a different story, and it's non-technical. So it's the story about how to win, how organizations win with analytics, which is pretty similar to how they win with beer. To get us started, this is not the first or the only story on analytics and beer. In 1908, there was a paper published by William Gossett, who was then working as a scientist at Guinness, who developed the tea distribution, which is still heavily used today for tea tests. And basically, he was using that to compare the soils of different qualities and to optimize the quality of the beer. So basically, he was building the tea test for small samples. So if there would be a meetup in that time, it would have been a small data community instead of a big data community. We obviously know in Belgium that not the Irish are the best at beer, but it's certainly not the Dutch or the Danish, but it's us. And it's not in Pils, it's in trappist beers, which are beers produced by trappist monks. And basically, we've distinguished 5 key success factors that are common between how the monks win with making the best beers in the world and how analysts can win with analytics. Okay, first one is obviously the organization, right? It had to make sense for the monks to begin brew beer. What was very important for them was to be self-sufficient, and the beer helped them to gain an income for their organization. But still, the beer was not the strategic goal, right? So they still are not brewers, they're monks, and they only brew beer to be able to afford being monks. This is pretty similar with analytics. Especially 5 years ago, not a single company in Belgium really saw analytics as a strategic advantage, probably. The tide is changing slowly now, and the tide is changing mainly due to the advances or due to the hype in big data, probably, which took mainstream probably by the article in Harvard Business Review in 2012 only. The data is for analytics what hops are for beer, just an ingredient, right? Whether it's big or small data, so I'm fully aligned with the previous speakers. They are a crucial component of our analysis, but they are only one key success factor. Another thing that has happened due to the big data hype is probably the technology rush, the big data technology rush that we know today. In order not to make mistakes and choose the wrong platform, I see different organizations choosing many platforms at this point just to make sure they don't miss out on the right one. What we're seeing in enthusiasm for technology shouldn't only translate, I think, to new tools, but also to analytic methodology, and that's sometimes what we need to have more of, instead of, or next to, I would say, bigger data and nicer tools. And this analytic methodology gets us to the next key success factor, which is talent. It should be obvious that talent in beer brewing is very scarce. You have to be a monk and you have to be trained, often to a scientific level, to be able to do this. This is pretty much the same in our community. 5 years ago, when we hired a person, we had the choice between one candidate, so we could either choose him or not. Nowadays, if we see this community, Philip, that is really amazing, the things you guys have been doing here. So talent is definitely changing. The one component that I think is the most important, if we put those 4 together, the 5th and final component, I think, is usage. In beer, it's pretty obvious you can't win if you don't drink it. So there had to be a consumer market for beer. In analytics, it's pretty much alike. There's a famous saying by George Box that says, all models are wrong, but some are useful. I think that's very true. But I would like to add another statement that says, all models that aren't used are useless. And that makes a lot of sense. I see the most clever organizations today value their analysts not on the quantity of output they produce, but on the quantity of output that is used. That was my small message for today. Thank you.